Finally! Got the script down and I'm ready to be shooting this whole Death Metaller Reviews episode. Now all I gotta do is just... Wait a minute. What the fuck's going on? You got to be fucking kidding me! God damn it, some black guy! What to do now? Should I continue on with this review, or just don't give a shit? Fuck it, let's do it!
I am hate. When you look at me, you look at hate.
When I look at you, I look at hate.
When you look at me, you know what hate is.
Hey everybody, this is Atticus, the Death Metaller, and welcome to another episode of the Death Metaller Reviews. Here in this episode, we are going to be reviewing one of my favorite bands, Amon Amarth, and their latest new release, Berzerker. And before we get down onto the review, let us do a little history and bio of the band now, shall we? Dark Ages, a period of Europe's history where demographic, cultural, and economic deterioration was at an all-time high after the Western Roman Empire drew its last breath. A time where Christianity was the only sole true knowledge, instead of the philosophies of Greco and Roman civilizations that came before it. But it was also a period in where a group of people made a bloody mark upon Europe's history. The Vikings. Brutal, savage warriors that raped and pillaged nearby villages, but also excellent seafarers that made colonies across Iceland, Greenland, the Faroe Isles, and even North America before Columbus. There is a lot of things we still do not know about these fantastic and terrifying peoples, but there is one thing that we all know for certain. Their legends, culture, and way of life have inspired the bands that we are talking about now. Amon Amarth. Amon Amarth formed in the town of Tumba, Sweden in 1992. Formed from the ashes of an older band called Scum, which was actually a grindcore band. Amon Amarth was the ideal name thanks to the bassist Ten Lundstrom, which is actually Mount Doom from the Sindarian language in Lord of the Rings. The band is technically a melodic death metal band, but to many people like myself, I consider them Viking metal. Though the vocalist Johan Hegg disagrees with that quote, saying this: "We play death metal, we write about Vikings, so therefore some refer us to Viking metal. But I have no idea what that is. I can't imagine the Vikings were into metal at all except on the swords and stuff. And musically, I guess they only played these strange lip instruments and some bongos or whatever." And funny enough, most people compare the band to pagan or folk metal. Again, Hegg made this following statement: "We don't really see ourselves as one of those bands doing pagan folklore music. The reason we took the Viking theme and mythology theme is a lyrical theme for the band was perhaps more accidental from the start. When we wrote the first song with Viking lyrics, we felt it was a topic that suited the music that we wanted to write really well. It was something different as well from a lot of other bands in Sweden. I think only Bathory and Unleashed had done anything like it. For us, it was to do something different, to stand out a little bit, but to use those lyrics." Whether you people agree with Johann's statement, whether they're folk metal, Viking metal, or even melodic death metal, there is one thing we can all agree on, is that the music that Amon Amarth brings out to the table can release the inner Viking warrior that we all have inside us. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let us raise our swords and head into battle with Berzerker. Berzerker was produced by Jay Ruston. Jay Ruston is known to have worked with such bands like Anthrax, Stone Sour, Black Star Riders, Cataclysm, Meatloaf, and Steel Panther. Berzerker is also the second album that features their new drummer, Jock Wahlgren. Now, I will indeed say this before I get into further details onto the album before going into my songs. I am completely well aware that some black guy started his new channel, Black Metal, and his first review happened to be that of this album that I am reviewing right now. Just to make things absolutely explicitly clear here, I have not seen his review on Berzerker because I do not want to copy off of some black guy's review off of that album. I tend to actually do my own thing, as I've done 3 years with this series, and I will continue to do that. So with this review, but regardless of my grievances, I'm just very glad that some black guy is actually branching off and doing a lot more diversity within his content, not only with his main channel, but also Black Chat, where he talks about other stuff, and with his new channel, Black Metal, which is going to be a music review. It's really great knowing that he's actually, you know, bringing out more content and more diversity onto his content over onto his 3 channels. So I have nothing but just, you know, absolute positive love and vibes off of you, Derek. I mean, you're one of my favorite YouTubers. I also find it funny that you're sporting the shades off of Black Metal, which you're kind of cosplaying Cover Killer Nation, Rageaholic, and my boy Shades. Me and Shades were talking about that shit. But alas, enough about that. So, Berzerker. To all of you who are very familiar with Viking culture and society, you would know that the Berzerkers are considered to be the most bloodthirsty, powerful, and strongest warriors of the bunch. They basically are harbored with the spirit of a bear. I mean, which, you know, you have a bunch of these Berzerkers wearing the pelts of a bear, which grants them the berserk fury of a bear, hence, you know, forth a Berzerker. And I think it's a pretty good fit for this song. I mean, since, you know, Amon Amarth's entire discography is all about Vikings and shit, just like on how Deicide talk about Christianity and shit. But there was one thing upon my research onto this album that I found really me going, what? And it's this pitch I got from Exclaim, in which Exclaim says that it rated the album 8 out of 10, describing the band's sound that emphasized strong, triumphant riffage and bombastic songwriting, and stated that the album features some of their strongest material since Twilight of the Thunder God.
I have several questions.
Twilight of the Thunder God. Now, don't get me wrong, I mean, I've listened to Berzerker. I think it was pretty good. But comparing it to Twilight of the Thunder God, that says a lot. Because there are, I mean, I will say my favorite albums off of Amon Amarth would be With Odin on Our Side, that got me into the band. Twilight of the Thunder God, which is my magnum opus, my bread and butter. And Surtur, which is pretty much Twilight of the Thunder God light. And I will say their later 2 albums, Deceiver of the Gods and Jomsviking, I mean, they were okay and stuff, but I still listen to those albums time and time again. It's just I'm not really invested into those albums like that with what I said onto After the Burial's Dig Deep. Like, if it's an album that I'm very hooked on, like Twilight of the Thunder God, I know that is an absolutely kick-ass album, and I come back to it almost every time. But I always come back to Jomsviking, Deceiver of the Gods, just to listen to a couple songs off of them. But with Berzerker, I feel that way when it comes to those last 2 releases. But there were a couple songs I really did like off of this album. So we're going to be reviewing those albums and see how they fit well with that bold statement saying that it's compared to Twilight of the Thunder God. As the great Varg has said, let's find out. The first track on this list is Fafnir's Gold. Now, the inspiration for this song was the very following that I picked up from this article right here. In Norse mythology, Fafnir is a son of a dwarf king, Hredmir. Please forgive me for butchering the names. I know I'm trying my best here, just a little heads up. After being affected by the curse of Andvari's ring and gold, Fafnir became a dragon and was slain by Sigurd. The song is about the quest of slaying Fafnir, and the title refers to his hoard of gold that he keeps. I do like the song because, I mean, it's a very strong beginning, has that good old Amon Amarth vibe with a fast pace going on with the drums and the guitars and the epic vocals that comes off with every Amon Amarth song, and this just fits right to it. But in many ways, since, you know, it brings up onto Fafnir becoming a dragon, it sort of in some ways reminds me of The Hobbit, where Bilbo Baggins goes into the horde of, you know, the golden horde of Smaug the dragon of Erebor. And in many ways it reminds me of that, but I also do love the song in that sense here, so have a listen.
In search of Fafnir's gold, a dragon's tale. He'll run his sword through his scales. Fafnir's gold, a dragon's tale.
The next track on our list is Crack the Sky. Now, before I get down onto the inspiration of this song, I will indeed say when I first found out that this song was called Crack the Sky, it literally reminded me of that album of Mastodon called Crack the Sky, and I'm like, really? What? But anyhow, this is what I found out the inspiration of that song was about. Telling the story of how Norse people thought of lightning and thunder. They thought when storms raced across the sky, it was Thor in his chariot pulled by Tangrisnir, and Tangrisnost, please forget me, was racing to defeat Joltnir. The lightning was Mjolnir being thrown, thunder was the sound of Mjolnir hitting its intended target. Now, in a way, I can sense why that, you know, I mean, come on, like, these were like people before we had an understanding on how thunder and lightning was made with scientific research and all that stuff. But, I mean, ancient peoples have thought of many ways on why, you know, thunder and lightning comes around. I mean, with the Greeks and Romans, they thought it was Jupiter and Zeus hurling his lightning bolts. And in, you know, Vikings and Norse people in general, it was, you know, Thor doing his stuff. And in Native American culture, they thought it was like some giant-ass thunderbird, or other tribes had that same kind of thing right there. But yeah, I can understand why that this song is pretty much about on how, you know, primitive, you know, ancient peoples had their concepts and beliefs and their stories on how, you know, what makes thunder and lightning. Because, I mean, come on, like, I mean, thunder and lightning is pretty scary at times, especially when I'm trying to sleep. Like, here's the thing, like, when I'm trying to sleep, because I live in Florida, and like in the middle of the night, like, there are times where lightning comes around and it feels like that artillery shell just landed right next to my house. But aside from all that, how I feel about the song, it has those vibes of Pursuit of the Vikings off of Fate of Norms, a very classic Amon Amarth album. I mean, it's not one of my cups of tea because I'm so invested into, with Odin on our side, Twilight of the Thunder God, and Surtur, but it's a pretty classic song off of Amon Amarth, and I can see this song as a way of, you know, Amon Amarth going back to some of its good oldie moments of their career and bringing it forth onto Berzerker. So have a listen.
Let your hammer fly, let it fly. Crack the blackened sky, crack the sky. Let your hammer fly, let it fly.
The next song on our list is Mjolnir, Hammer of Thor. I think the entire song is pretty fucking self-explanatory when talking about this song. I mean, it is Thor's mighty weapon in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well as Norse mythology in itself. And I mean, still to my honest opinion, I think Mjolnir is a pretty goddamn badass weapon. That, you know, it's just a powerful weapon. It never leaves Thor's side. He uses it to slay giants and Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent and shit, which is actually Thor's arch nemesis in Norse mythology, unlike Loki and shit. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good song. But does it really? I honestly really prefer Twilight of the Thunder God when it comes to the mighty Thunder God Thor. It's a lot more epic and a lot more badass and just fucking amazing in a sense off of, Amon Amarth. But I do like this song as well. It has, again, it's fast-paced going on, but I would say it's a little bit light, positive, epic, side. It would have been good for, many of the Thor movies. I mean, Thor 1, The Dark World, and Ragnarok, if they ever use it. It would have been, honestly, it would have been pretty awesome if they used it at the beginning of Ragnarok, in my opinion. But yeah, I would say it's a pretty good song off of Berzerker, and have a listen here. But Twilight of the Thunder God is still better than this song. The next track on our list is Shield Wall. Now, obviously, I will have to explain the reasoning why the song is called Shield Wall, which I found this little paragraph here stating this. The formation of a shield wall is a military tactic that was common in many cultures in pre-early modern warfare age. There are many slight variations of this tactic amongst these cultures, but in general, a shield wall was a wall of shields formed by soldiers standing in formation, shoulder to shoulder, holding their shields so that they about or overlap. Each soldier benefits from the protection of his neighbors' shields as well as his own. And, I mean, we've seen it with, Greek armies, Roman armies, and of course the Vikings have adapted, shield wall tactics as well when it comes to battles. Again, this is like one of their somewhat fast-paced but also epic songs, but here, have a listen. The next song on our list is Raven's Flight, and now this happens to be the first single off the new Amon Amarth album that I listened to, and I gotta say it's a pretty good song. It's like that of, Crack the Sky, but I mean, it's a good and decent song. It has like a very epic journey sound in a sense. Now the song is basically about the war between King Allel's army and the Viking army guided by Ragnar Lothbrok's sons who are searching revenge for their father's death. Now if you guys are avid watchers of the show Vikings, that's that particular episode where you saw the entire heathen armies overwhelm King Allel and then get the bloody eagle at the end of that episode. That is what this song is basically about. Now, I really haven't seen the latter seasons of Vikings. I don't know why, but I guess I just didn't really pay that much attention to Vikings. Mostly because, History Channel isn't the way that it used to be, but still, I love Vikings, the show on History Channel. But after seeing an article done by one of the members of the Enslaved calling the inaccuracies of Vikings, I kind of have to agree with him on a lot of points. I could talk all day about that, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about this song. Granted, it's one of their slower, non-aggressive songs, but it's more of like an epic sounding song, in my opinion. I'm not big onto it, but I can, jam out to it time and time here again. But I think it's a pretty good and decent song nonetheless, which has a pretty good story about it, which, of course, it's about the Sons of Ragnar, which is like my friend's band, by the way, seeking revenge over the death of their father, Ragnar Lothbrok. So, have a listen. The next song on our list is Ironside. And again, since we're talking about the show Vikings, this is about one of the characters and one of the supposed sons of Ragnar Lothbrok, Bjorn Ironside. Supposedly the son of the famous Viking king Ragnar Lothbrok, this song is about his legend. It is not actually known if Bjorn Ironside actually was the son of Ragnar, but he was the first ruler of the Musno dynasty. And I really do like the fact that not only does Amon Amarth do songs about Viking myths and legends and songs about being Vikings in general, but this album really does show off, you know, mostly historical moments of the Viking Age during the Dark Ages and stuff. And Bjorn Ironside happens to be one of my favorite characters off of Vikings as well. I mean, Alexander Ludwig plays a good role as Bjorn Ironside. And again, I really need to get caught up on Vikings if I really have the time on my hands. Like, as of right now, I really don't. Again, one of the members of Enslaved kind of made me turn it down onto Vikings. But aside from all that, what I also find this song very unique when it comes to all Amon Amarth songs is that this is the first time in pretty much where Johan Hegg does clean sing. He doesn't go tee-hee like Eddie Hermida, but he does the bravado kind of thing. I mean, Johan Hegg is a big, burly Viking with a gut going on, but he still is a fucking badass motherfucker. But you know, it's really interesting that he's also implementing, you know, a singing voice, but it's a very, you know, guttural singing voice coming from a very big, burly, beard-gutted, epic Viking man, in a sense. So I find it really cool, and it also is an epic song detailing on, you know, Bjorn Ironside, one of the most legendary supposed sons of Ragnar Lothbrok.
And never has my blood been shed in countless wars and fights. This Kenning is my true name. They call me Ironside. Now here I sit on Svitjor's throne.
The next track on our list is the reason why that this album is called Berzerker, with the song dubbed The Berzerker at Stamford Bridge. Throughout history, we have seen great and legendary warriors that have written their names in history in blood, with such names like Leonidas, the Spartan king who fought to the death in the Battle of Thermopylae, Miyamoto Musashi, the world's greatest swordsman in history, Menenkormas of Karina, the world's greatest boxer in history in Greco-Roman times, Galvarino, basically the Incan Wolverine, and Simo Haya, the White Death. I always bring up Simo Haya all the damn time. But alas, this Berzerker, which this song is about, doesn't have a name, but he is known as the Berzerker of Stamford Bridge, and he deserves to be on that category of great warriors like Leonidas and Miyamoto Musashi. And it states here, it is the story of an unnamed Berzerker whose last stand was to hold a choke point against the advancing armies of King Harold Godwinson and the Earls of Northumbria and Mercia, who were in pursuit of Harold Hardrada and Tostig Godwinson's armies. The Berzerker did this to allow the armies of Hardrada and Tostig enough time to retreat and establish their own last stand. The Berzerker holding the choke point was eventually brought down, believed by piercing him between his legs, while soldiers from King Harold and Earl's armies waited underneath the bridge. And he fucking held off all those soldiers for what I do believe a fucking hour. I could just imagine like a guy holding off just a huge horde of soldiers coming at you at this choke point, and you're just mowing them down one by one by one. And you know, at this point you should be like absolutely tired, but this is the reason why some of the most toughest Viking warriors were dubbed Berzerkers, because they had this unbridled, ungodly berserk fury that, you know, most people think that it's the strength of a bear or of the gods themselves. And this dude basically just hacked away oncoming soldiers up onto this choke point. Now, I will say that this song is a lot slower than Raven's Flight and Crack the Sky, but it is a very, kind of like, when at the end of 300, when all the 300 Spartans finally died, it has that sort of mood when it comes to that song, which is kind of fitting for a guy with such legend, even though this unnamed Berzerker is nameless. I think he deserves to be up in the ranks of, warriors like Simo Haya, the White Death, Miyamoto Musashi, the most legendary, most powerful samurai in history, and of course Leonidas of Sparta. So I think he deserves to be up in the ranks of those warriors. So enjoy the song. And now we come to our final song off of this list, Skull and Hati. Now, when I first saw the title of the song, I thought of Haiti, but I'm like, Hati, Haiti? I'm just calling it Hati. So, Hati, it's funny when I say it like that. But aside from all that, the meaning behind the song was that this song is about two wolves, Skull and Hati, and on how Norse people thought of Skull and Hati was pretty much, two wolves chasing each other, which represents day and night. So that's pretty much how, the Norse peoples thought of when it comes to the days and nights. Basically, the procession of when the sun rises, the sun sets, and the moon brings out. So, therefore, it's like two wolves chasing around each other. And the song, in many ways, it has that same kind of vibe of Deceiver of the God, but on a different tune. That's what I think about this song. Have a listen. Berzerker was indeed a great album to listen to. Now, does it rank up onto the ranks of Twilight of the Thunder God, my bread and butter off of Amon Amarth? I don't really think so. When it comes to music-wise, it's pretty decent, up in the ranks of Deceiver of the Gods and Jomsviking. But with the lyrics, I will indeed say I absolutely loved the song titles, the lyric ideas, because it comes both from actual historical moments of Viking history, as well as Viking mythology, as Amon Amarth have always done throughout their entire careers with the band. I will indeed say this was a very good and decent album to listen to. Berzerker gets an 8 out of 10 for this review. So, dear viewers, what did you think about Berzerker? Did you like it or did you dislike this album? Leave them down on the comments below. And stay tuned for more videos. So without further ado, ladies and gents, I am Atticus, the Death Metaller. Hope you liked this video, subscribe to my channel, links are in the description below. Keep it metal, and skål, my dear friends!
In search of founders gold.